We're back and talking about WWE 2K20 and the future of this franchise. Now, this is something that I've been wanting to talk about because Justin Leeper, who used to work on the road to WrestleManias for the WWE SmackDown vs. Raw series, actually put out a series of videos, and I actually wanted to wait till all those videos came out before I made this video. I had talked to Marcus Stevenson and I had said, hey, do you know this Justin Leeper guy? He said, yeah, he's a credible source. He worked on the games. So I'll take it for what he is saying here. If you're not familiar, Marcus Stevenson works with me on Deadlock. He also used to work on the WWE games. At one point, he was like a community manager. He also worked on Road to WrestleMania stuff. He's been around the block, and he says, yeah, Justin Leeper was there. He knows what he's talking about. So he actually put a series of videos on his channel. If you want to check it out, I'll link to his channel in the description. You can check him out. I follow him on Twitter, and if he has anything that he wants to add to this, wants me to do an update later, whatever, Justin, hit me up in the DMs on Twitter. I'd be more than welcome to talk to you. If you just want a voice to express your opinion about this stuff and you need a channel and go through me, I'd be more than happy to have a sit-down conversation, maybe talk to you on the phone, do a Skype call. You still use Skype, Discord, whatever you want to be. I would be down to do that sort of thing with you. So putting out my feelers, let's do something, and let's set the record straight. So he had 4 videos that came out. I think he was just starting to do it as like a 1 video series, and then it became 2, and then he made a trilogy, and then he did like a last part, which was kind of like to answer or kind of set the record straight. And I do like the setting the record straight because I see a lot of the things that he was setting straight come in the comments all the time. Well, why doesn't this happen, or this or that, or this or that? So I definitely do see what he is saying, so I wanted to put that out there. The biggest takeaway here is that there has been some traction from the 3rd video, I believe, he put out, where he actually talked about how WWE 2K20, a bunch of people decided that they were upset with the company and they decided to leave. There was at least 10 people in the WWE games at 2K Studios that said, we're upset, we want to leave this company. And they did. And apparently the developers that worked on the game, I don't know how new they are, what they are, but they did leave the company. And he says he's not going to name who they are, but he said that's what it is. He also went on to state that because of the reviews and the way that the score came in for the game, if you're not familiar with this, I've actually talked to a number of developers, not just WWE games, like developers that have made many games from independent to big AAA studios. I've talked to many developers, and what I have found out is that their bonuses and the way that their structure and pay and budget goes, right? It is based off of how their review scores go for the game. So if you're a AAA studio and your game gets very good review scores, the studio is going to push more money at you, and they're going to say, continue to make this game. Here's some bonuses for you guys for working so hard on the game, and continue to do what you do. Now, on the other hand, if you have a property like WWE 2K20, which got very bad review scores, and you have everything off the wall, there's people in the company that are going to see this as a negative, and they're going to go, we can't give you your bonus. Your Metacritic score was awful, and we're probably going to not give you as big of a budget as we did this year. If the game does not get reviewed well, if it does not push units, why would a studio put a bunch of time and effort into this game franchise? It's just science here. It's just math. It's not science. It's just, you can look at it. If it's not performing, why put in the money? And what his take was that in previous years, they looked at the way that his mode, right? It was Road to WrestleMania mode that he was working on. And they looked at the way that that was reviewed and the score was coming in. And he said that it wasn't performing that great as far as like reviews and pushing units of the game. So what they decided was that Road to WrestleMania was a mode they wanted in their game. And that was from him. And that's what he has from experience. So his takeaway is that, now I'm not going to say that this is what actually happened. He's putting 2 and 2 together. He's doing the math in his head. He's saying people are upset. They're leaving the company, right? We have at least 10 people who are upset and leaving the company. And we have very low review scores. That's going to look like the budget is going to be cut for WWE 2K21. That's what it looks like. If all things point to this and the way that it all works out, it looks like the budget is going to be lower than it was. And that is not a good sign. But on the other hand, I wanted to talk about this because I don't know how this works. And if you could tell me, Justin, I would love to talk to you. And I would love to know how this works. I really haven't even asked Marcus or anybody. I just haven't. What factor does WWE own in this game? Because it is still their game at the end of the day. And what sort of power do they have to push this game and give it the budget that it needs and say, okay, we understand that you didn't make this game as great, but we're going to give you more money. We're going to hopefully help push this franchise forward. We're going to make it the way that we should. Because to me, it seems like there's a difference between making a game that's like a Call of Duty versus making a game that's a WWE game or a sports-related game or a game that is tied to an IP. When you're making a game that's, let's say, Call of Duty or anything else that isn't tied to a big corporation like WWE or the NFL or the NBA, when you're making a game like that, all you have to do is worry about making that game and making your company happy. But you also, when working with a major game like WWE or a sports game, you have to worry about the company's game that you're working on, the IP that you're working on. So WWE has to see this, and they have to be like, is this something that we want to keep around? Are they making us proud? Is this the image we want for us, right? They could be seeing this and going, we don't want this. Or they could go, you know what? We want this, but we want you to do better. Put more time. Here's more money. Here's more resources. Do the best that you can and make it better. That's some of the things that they could be doing. And that's something that I don't know. I don't understand how that works. I don't understand how that works. In part 4 of his video, he wanted to talk about Ukes a little bit. And he talked about Ukes a little bit in a couple of the parts. But in one of the things that was very interesting is that he said Ukes did not leave. They were let go. They were let go. And what happened was when Ukes was being let go, they were saying, hey, we'd like you to tell us some of your secrets. Tell us how this game works and how we can make it work. And whether it was, in his words, he says, this is not, written down, but it's, paraphrased. He said that they didn't have the best communication when it came to telling all these secrets and how the game works. Whether it was because they didn't know how their own engine worked, or was it because, hey, you just let us go. We don't really want to spend a lot of time to tell you everything because you don't want to work with us anymore. So it's kind of one of those things. Basically, he put it as this. If your girlfriend broke up with you, your girlfriend came back and asked you to go, hey, can you tell me all the secrets in the bedroom and teach it to the new guy? You're not going to want to help him. That was his analogy. So very fun analogy, by the way. But that's basically the way that it is that Ukes was like, oh, and this was a long time coming. Ever since the 2K had taken over, I heard from the beginning, we eventually want to do this all in-house with Visual Concepts. And this was the first year that he did it. They didn't have everything right, obviously. They didn't learn everything they needed to learn from Ukes. And that's why the issue was with the game. And that's what he says. And so that's just one of those big deals there where it's like, it comes down to time, money, effort, and the amount of resources they can put into this. Again, it goes back to what I was saying. Does WWE see this and go, okay, we want to help you out, more time, more money, make it better? Or is it going to be one of those things where it's like, we don't want it? And how does the studio head, how does 2K, and how do they feel about it? It's this double-edged thing where it's like, you got WWE over here, you got 2K over here. Which side has more power, and how is it going to work? Because at the end of the day, it is a WWE game. So if 2K is not making the game that WWE wants, they could say, we're going to take ourselves elsewhere. We're going to make somebody else make our game. And maybe that will happen, and maybe it won't, but we'll have to wait and see. A couple of things that we have been seeing here is that he had mentioned that people were saying, hey, why doesn't THQ Nordic work on the games? Why doesn't Sin Sophia, which is Aki, AKI, why don't they make the games? And he had a very just straightforward point. And I knew this, and I've never said this, but I'm like, THQ Nordic is not THQ. It's not the THQ that you remember. If you knew how everything went down, here's how it went. THQ went bankrupt. They sold all their assets. And Nordic Games picked up the THQ name. And they slapped it at the beginning of that. And they picked up some of the IPs that they had. I think they had like an ATV MX Tricky or whatever, that freaking motocross ATV game they have. They picked up that license, and then there's like another game I think they picked up, like Red Dawn or something, or whatever they did. They picked up some of those licenses, and then some of the other licenses with THQ just got traded everywhere. So THQ Nordic is Nordic Games with THQ slapped on there, just to say. So it's not they have nothing to do with the WWE games. So them making a game, sure, but it's not going to do anything. And then we have Sin Sophia, which is the old AKI, now Sin Sophia. Basically, what they're doing now is they're making dating mobile sim type games. So that has nothing to do with professional wrestling, and it's nothing to do with what the WWE and all that is. So trying to put these people to make a game, they might not be the best fit for it. But what I will say for this, right? He does say that, but I do say this on the other hand. Sin Sophia, I believe that's how you pronounce it, probably still owns the engine for the AKI game. The AKI game engine, which was WCW NWO World Tour, WCW NWO Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, and No Mercy, and then there was a couple other games in there. But could we get that license? I know I've talked to many people, like indie developers and everybody, trying to get in contact with Sin Sophia because they want that engine. They want the rights to use that AKI engine to make those games. And I'm assuming that they still own the license. Maybe it's not. Wasn't there Def Jam that used that engine at one point? I'm not even sure who owns that engine at this point. But if they own that engine, that would be a great place to start to get a game similar to the AKI game. I don't know if they're ever going to get it, but that's just what I see. So honestly, let's wrap this up. Let's put a little bow on it. Let's talk about all the Justin Leeper videos here and wrap it up in a nice little moment of thought here. The budget may be cut. People are definitely leaving the studio. People are definitely not happy with the reputation they're getting with this game, and it's not looking good for the WWE games going into the future. My thoughts? Maybe WWE will step up and say, hey, improve your product. Here's more money. Make it better. Let's go. Or maybe they'll be the opposite and say, Ukes was let go. 2K didn't want to work with Ukes. So Ukes is going to do their own thing. They didn't teach them all the tricks they needed to know, so now they got to figure out on their own. I think we're going to see an evolution, and the game is going to change. I think 2K21, if they have the proper resources and time and money and the backing, that we could see a turn in making a better game. I don't know if it will be the best game or not, but I do think they could make it better. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end it today. If you guys do enjoy this type of video, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm curious to know what you think about WWE 2K2021 going forward. Justin Leeper's videos, because there's a lot of information he put in there, and it's somebody that was working on these games in the past on the Road to WrestleMania, which I still think was a great mode. So hats off to you. I loved Road to WrestleMania. But anyway, that's where I'm going to end it. As always, I'm TonyPizzaGuy. We'll see you in another.